Welcome back to Toast. Now, where were we? New Zealand? Yeah, cool. So we just walked on a glacier. We just saw an amazing national park. We still have half of our trip ahead of us, but things move a little bit quicker from here on out. So um, let's get into it. As soon as we woke up in France, Joseph, we got up bright and early and we went to Lake Matheson, which is basically this mirror lake that overlooks some mountain range in New Zealand. And it's, if there's no wind, and generally if you go early enough, which is what we aimed for, I think we were there probably around 7 at the actual lake. Granted, there was a bit of a drive and a bit of a hike to go there. We ended up getting a beautiful, almost perfect reflection of just, snow-capped mountains and just peaks, reflected in the mirror lake, so that it kind of just looks like they just meet, and I don't know, it's like a surreal experience and just natural. So that was really cool. And then we hit the road and we were heading for Queenstown. So one of the main hubs of the South Island. At the time, actually, there was a year that Christchurch, which was one of the main cities as well of the South Island, was completely demolished by a huge earthquake. But I'm not going to get into that because we didn't end up going for that reason. So we went to Queenstown, or we're driving to Queenstown, and this was just a spectacular drive because there you're kind of starting from this ecosystem of being at a glacier. So there's Franz Josef Glacier, there's also Fox Glacier, which is kind of what we were looking at from that Lake Matheson, and it was just beautiful to go from this frozen environment up a few mountains, around a few corners, and then we were in this like beautiful, lush, super green crawlers and vines everywhere you could. It was just like primary rainforest, or at least it looked like primary rainforest, and that's just like a spectacular sight, especially having left like the ice. And then it doesn't stop there. As we continue, we end up like kind of getting to this like beach paradise, kind of looks like California, a little bit of like palm trees and stuff like that, just like driving along the coast. And it was just such a world of difference between like frozen winter wonderland to like Amazon kind of forest to just like California vibes on like the coast. And then we continue driving, and then we'd have this super dry, arid climate where there was literally no wildlife or no plant to be seen. It was just like dry and brown. It was just an insane and albeit short drive from Fox Glacier to Queenstown. I think it was about 4 hours or so. And we just went through like multiple ecosystems just to, add to the whole diversity that you get from a trip to New Zealand. So I really think that you should plan that if you have the opportunity. Now, we get to Queenstown, and what do people do when they get to Queenstown? Well, most people want to do like adventures, right? It's like kind of the adventure capital of New Zealand. It's probably one of the adventure capitals of the world. They have snowboarding, bungeeing, ziplining, all the beautiful things that you want to do depending on the seasons. And I wanted to do all of them. So what did we do? All of them. No. In all reality, obviously, we couldn't have done all of them. We only had probably like 4 or 5 days left in our trip at this point. And so one thing I was like, I've never snowboarded in August. So, first things first, like, boom, we rent some snowboards, we get some tickets, and we planned it for the next day. We're like, sick, we're going snowboarding. We're going like, who the hell goes snowboarding in August? I think it was August 16th. I still have like the tag on my coat somewhere. I thought it was insane, to have that. And it was really cool about snowboarding is that in Canada, for those of you who are Canadian or even in the States, we kind of start snowboarding from the bottom of the mountain, and we go to the top of the mountain with like 1 chairlift or 2 chairlifts, and then we come back down to the bottom of the mountain, and we kind of repeat that action. It wasn't known to me before that most places in the world aren't like that. And New Zealand was like my first wake-up call for that, which was just driving up one mountain, which was the mountain that we were snowboarding on. I think it was called Cardrona or something. Cardrona, something like that. It was just like zigzags, like switchbacks, like the hiker's nightmare. If you ever gone hiking or biking, you hate those switchbacks. There's back and forth, just U-turns and going straight. And it was that in a car for like an hour before we even got to snow. And then we got to snow, and we needed to continue that for a little bit. And then that's where we got to like the actual cabin, and, we could take the chairlift up. And it was just such a weird and strange sight for me. As a North American, snowboarding has always been, lots of trees, lots of forest, kind of like that Siberia tundra stuff going on, and we call it backcountry when you go into the forest and you really have a good time, dodging trees and jumping on fallen logs and things like that. And you can have a lot of fun with that. And so I was kind of expecting that style to abandon Sunny a little bit and go, hors piste, as we say. And really what ended up happening is we've been driving up a mountain so long. It's, been like 2 kilometers vertically, maybe more, that we just literally scaled up this mountain that there are no more trees. We're above the tree line. And so, first of all, I was already looking at the mountain like, this is crazy. Cause like, where are the runs if, there's no trees? Like the trees are kind of what separate the runs in Canada. That's what I've always been used to. They still have runs. It's still kind of like a way for you to go off piste or like off track. It's just a little bit more dangerous, more steep, less groomed, things like that. Still fun stuff to do. But the thing that you need to know is that when you're at the top of the mountain in New Zealand, and if you haven't gotten it by now, New Zealand has a shitload, a fuckload of mountains just everywhere. And so you're at the top of this mountain and you're just looking, and everything you see is just snow-capped mountains. And you're on hopefully one of the bigger ones, because as far as the eye can see, just mountains. And you're from like such a different vantage point and you're used to, especially driving around or walking around or hiking around. I mean, maybe similar to hiking, but really not even, because it just takes so much effort to get to that, peak or top of that mountain. Not even like on foot, but just because of the mountains surrounding it. How hard would it get to get there? And it was just amazing. It was just so bare, so barren, so beautiful. And we had a great day snowboarding. So let's leave it at that. We're back at Queenstown, eating some fish and chips, or fish and chups, if you want to say it with your Kiwi accent. And after the fish and chups, we get some sleep. And the next day, what are we doing? More adventure. You're in Queenstown. We ended up going bungee jumping. Now, bungee jumping, I swear to God, that was the first time I ever bungee jumped. But I've bungee jumped about 10 times since, and every single time you get the same thrill. I'm of the opinion that bungee jumping is more insane than skydiving for one reason, and one reason only. You have to make that jump. And that jump is certain death. Your brain knows that it's certain death. If the only thing that's stopping you from that death is about a cord that's probably as big as this thing that's holding the mic, and you need to jump. Skydiving, there's this guy who's been doing it for years, and he's strapped to your back. He's already jumped like 7 times today. The guy is literally just spitting confidence in your ears, and it's not that you're not scared when you skydive. It's just that you're not as scared because you're not taking a certain leap of death. Nonetheless, we ended up attaching a GoPro to my wrist, and I think at the time it was the second biggest bungee in the world. Now I'm not quite sure where it stands in the standings. It's 134 meters. That's like 500 feet almost for you Americans, 400 feet. It's just an insane amount of like distance for somebody to like fall, The free fall, I think, was timed at like 9.5 seconds. So you're legit falling for like a really, really long time. Like you're kind of there, not really sure, screaming your lungs out. And that's exactly, I counted to 9. That's how long you're falling for. Just screaming at the top of your lungs. And it was amazing. The GoPro video was really cool. Have another story with it in Australia. So, stay tuned for that. Now, we did it, and this bungee jump, I need to go into a little bit more detail. This bungee jump is not like other bungee jumps where you kind of just like walk up this crazy ladder and, they're kind of this platform. No, they have a glass box. So the surface that you're jumping from is completely glass, completely see-through. So you're already freaked out before you're jumping. This glass box suspended by nothing but wires, like just metal wire. And it's in a canyon with this like insanely fast, like quickly flowing river under you, and it's super, super far. Like you don't even get that close to it with the actual bungee. That's like how much they could even add to that bungee if they wanted to, but for safety reasons, I guess it's good that they don't. It's just insane. Like you actually need to like hand pull yourself there on this little tiny metallic cart, almost like what you'd imagine if you were to go into like a mine and you needed to like push iron ore, and so you have these little cart on wheels and you're trying to push it and shove it or whatever. It was just insane that you had to like just traverse this. You needed to strap yourself in and traverse this massive like obstacle of fear that I've literally seen that day 4 people not even want to go to the bungee platform because that little cart was so scary. So needless to say, it was a really cool experience. Even just sitting in that glass box and seeing other people, muster up the courage to go. Even my buddy Sonny wasn't feeling too good because of the snowboarding. He was just like out of it. And anyways, he ended up doing it at the end. I convinced him to do it, or he convinced him to do it because he had the jump, right? That's the hardest thing. You can't just tell the guy, hey, push me. You can't do it. It's not skydiving. Anyways, we go back to Queenstown. We chill. I think we had a night out. We eat a bit more meat pies. Those meat pies I was talking about in that first episode. If you don't, go listen to that first episode. New Zealand meat pies. Meat pies. Meat pies. They're really good. I think we also ended up seeing some like kiwis and stuff in a certain area, kind of go to museums and things like that. And our last day was originally planned to go to Milford Sound. Now, if you don't know what Milford Sound is, Milford Sound, search it. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's a little bit far from Queenstown to do in one day. I think it's about 9-hour drive. And we were going to leave really late in the middle of the night to get there in the morning, hike a bit of Milford Sound, and then drive all the way back at night. Because of how tired Sonny was, and also my lack of, super enthusiasm to do that 18 hours worth of driving in one day without sleep in between, we kind of ended up abandoning it, and we ended up going ziplining instead. Ziplining's pretty cool. You kind of learn a little bit more about the area and how like certain trees native to California, oddly enough, are kind of taking over the area as endemic species and things like that. Anyways, I don't want to end on a negative note. Ziplining was awesome. We had a lot of fun. We ended up enjoying our time in New Zealand. New Zealand is just like this beautiful country that I can never like imagine being more beautiful. Like there's just nothing wrong with it. Like, I don't know. They're just peaceful animals. There's more. There's like 4 times as many sheep as there are people, and they're just cuddling. And they have mountains and backdrops. They're just trying to live their best life. So, needless to say, if you have the ability to go to New Zealand, go to New Zealand and choose it over other destinations. It doesn't matter. Fuck your budget. What you're going to remember are stories like these: walking on a glacier, seeing mirror lakes, going to the sunniest place in the world, just snowboarding in August. I don't know. It's just amazing. And you can go to so many like Lord of the Rings filming places and things like that. It's breathtaking at every single left or right turn while you're driving or in a bus. It's an easy country that you can hitchhike through. And thank you for listening. And I hope that you really enjoyed this New Zealand story. Of course, there's a little bit more that I could add. I did actually go to Christchurch on my own, but maybe I'll save that for another episode when I'm feeling up to talking about sensitive issues. So I want you guys to tune in, because next week I am talking about Australia, and there's so many stories to tell, so I don't even know which ones I'm going to lead with. So I hope to see you guys there. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Like, subscribe, send it to your grandparents. I love you. Toast.